not.
You're
obsessed with
it. Absolutely. That's what we
So
think.
behave, the broadcast is live.
The broadcast is live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Club. It's been an exciting week. And we are now live with two Sunday Clubbers going to be joined by more. But we don't like to keep you waiting. So we said, let's go live right away. At present, we were lamenting the fact that Pallavi Ghosh has had to resign herself to staying in Delhi and covering Parliament as opposed to being at the Bharat Jodo Yatra. So our sympathies with you, Pallavi.
But we know the more important point should be board there. Rahul Gandhi is not attending Parliament in winter session. She herself reported this earlier in the day. Then what's she going to do in Parliament?
Cover Parliament minus Rahul Gandhi. There's more to Parliament than Rahul Gandhi, clearly.
You're a dedicated Rahul,
No, I notice you tweet on him more often than I ever do. You're obsessed with him.
Hi, Sanjay.
Hello. Namaste.
Let the viewers judge who is more upset.
You are obsessed with RG. We all are actually in different measures for different reasons. But anyway, moving on to the topic of the evening, which is the NDTV buyout. So since Sandip is our official corporate honcho on the panel, let's start with you. Sandip, how hostile was this takeover and how sad should we all feel for the Roys? You've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions, so can you break it down for us?
See, first of all, it's not a takeover as yet. It is that RR PR company, which was more of a, what should you call a special purpose vehicle for routing, as the Americans say, certain financial transactions. Okay. And the Roys still continue to hold stakes in the main company. And they are no way ousted, and even whether editorially or in terms of the control of the main NDTV organization. Now, this particular entity, and I don't want to deflect from our, the main point of interest, the politics part of it. There is a very, very murky story about this RR PR Limited. There's a whole history about it. How the whole funding was done. Then originally, they took loan from ICICI Bank during the Chanda Kochar day. This was one of the companies which came into light and who financed it. And there is a whole lot of other investigations, everything which were going on, blah, blah. And this is where the Roys were also debarred from by SEBI from participating. And so there is a whole mix of things. So what I would say, this is almost like a bailout. Because, with Adani taking over, a lot of those history will get flushed down the Ganga. And so to that extent, they have been, to some extent, they've got a clean sheet. And what follows, whether there is anything linked to that in terms of the main channel and the ownership of the main NDTV, we'll get to know over a period of time. But at the moment, I think people are overreacting to say NDTV is sold out and the Roys are out, etc. The only person who is out and who we think has opted out is your Ravish Kumar. And he probably was planning this all along. It is just a matter of his timing with this thing he could get started. You know how difficult it is to start a YouTube channel and get so many viewers. You've done it the hard way. And he was kind of prepared for it, and he did it just as soon as this deal was announced. And Ravish Kumar, according to me, his main trigger for leaving is Sanjay Pugalia calling the shots. They were at one point in time colleagues, and Ravish Kumar thinks himself to be way up there. So if Sanjay comes in there, it's a bit like that. It's like AIM taking over a Sunday club. Now, what will you do? You will kind
Sunday club. Yeah, horrible. I'll quit right away. I'll be done. I'll do a Ravish.
and over the professor.
Debut at the Sunday Club. We were becoming a bit of a bong cart. I was becoming a bong cart. So I want to cover from the south. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. pseudo
Hi,
South
Sandeep.
Indian.
Hi.
Living in Kunura, I'm more of a South Indian than the other Sandeep.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sandeep
Great to
is
see
in
you.
Bangalore, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
in the South. This is
so
real.
you have two bongs. You have two bongs on the panel, one Rajasthani and one Kannadiga.
No, the third
Yeah.
bong has just gone incognito. That she will.
Where's the third bong? Oh, Pallavi Ghosh. Okay.
She's
Pallavi.
got a
She was
phone
here.
call. She got a phone
Okay,
call.
so you're in the majority.
Yeah, I mean,
All of
But
us
but
are
we'll still get you.
even I did my college in Calcutta, so I can call myself a semi-bong.
probably have more Sanjay.
Quasi bong.
Yeah,
Course,
but
Not semi. You're a quasi bong.
the rest
We
of us
need
are
that. We need that bomb connect here.
Yeah,
That
we
is
need that. Yeah. What Bengal thinks today, India thinks tomorrow, no?
God forbid.
Don't
God
start,
forbid.
don't start.
No, that used to be a slogan for the longest time.
Yeah, that was.
That,
Especially
still
during the freedom struggle.
ever since Gopal Krishna
that is
Gokhale
before they
said
stopped
that,
thinking.
yeah,
True.
See, there's a
Yes,
proof
Professor,
you will not
go ahead.
wrong. Dipankar, you pronounce Gokhale as Gokhale
Gokhale.
and Gokhale. You know, in
no,
Calcutta,
Gokhale bongs do. The true blue bongs do Gokhale.
you know, they'll say
Gokhale.
Gokhale. Very
Gokhale.
old school. The
Khela
road is-
hobe.
they call it Gokhale, and it's a very
Gokhale.
well-known school. A lot of your, I think, some of your
Yes,
colleagues
girls'
in
school.
the passed from there, passed out of that. They also very proudly call themselves, I'm a student of
Gokhale
Gokhale
Memorial.
Memorial.
Gokhale.
that-
Yeah. Gokhale.
We have a Gokhale Institute in Bangalore.
Right.
Was we-
I don't know whether you're
Similar. But back to the
Gokhale or
topic.
Gokhale?
Yeah, Gokhale.
Oh,
Gokhale Institute of Public Affairs. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Pa.
back to the
Back
topic.
to the topic.
Sanjay ji, we were discussing this yesterday, and Sandeep has touched on it as well about these murky financial dealings, and the whisper in the winds that maybe part of the deal is that these things will also kind of slide away or go away. And I just wanted to get your perspective on this rumor that's doing the rounds.
Well, rumors are rumors. We don't know what to do with rumors. I think we need to wait a while to see how it all unfolds. And there are a lot of pointers that we can see. Okay, Ravish has quit, but Srinivasan Jain has not quit. I think Srinivasan Jain was even more strident as far as Godi media was concerned.
Yeah.
And not only he was doing it on air, he was also doing it on social media. Otherwise, he was playing the role of a real activist, but he hasn't quit.
Very vociferously so.
Very
You see,
vociferously.
Sanjay ji, the difference between Ravish and Srinivasan is Ravish can start a YouTube channel. He had a following. He was like a destination journalist, whether we like him or not. So what he'll do with YouTube, etc., is different. Srinivasan Jain, so Pallavi would be threatened with not Pallavi, I would say Advaita would be threatened with a Ravish starting a channel, but not Srinivasan Jain starting a channel tomorrow. With due respect to him.
I'm threatened by no one, just to make that clear. But Pallavi,
Ravish,
you actually worked in NDTV. So I'm. How are you? What do you? And you, of course, are still in journalism. What are you hearing?
Inside story. Let's hear the inside story.
You have two Bengali old men on your show. It's a recipe for disaster, Advaita. But anyway.
As you were today. Yeah, you were asking something. I already did. No, I said, like, what's the gupshup? Like, what's the buzz right now? I mean, obviously, there's a fear factor within NDTV because obviously people are worried about whether they're going to be retaining their jobs or not. I have a different take. Yeah, very sadly, but I don't think it's like they're going to come and chuck out people. Ravish going comes as no surprise because, see, there are two reasons why he did it. I think it was inevitable.
Even before he's asked to leave, he decided to do it himself. And second, look at the kind of imaging he's also built up for his YouTube. I mean, the first day he launches his YouTube channel, it goes into lakhs of subscriptions. So he wants to go out on a high. He wants to project himself, which he already always has, as a journalist who did not bend under any corporate pressure. And therefore, I've decided to leave, even though I've not been asked to leave. So I think that's the reason why Ravish did. But, like, I know I should be saying it like this, but I don't feel sorry, because I've been in NDTV and I was a very small cog in the wheel, and like a very small reporter. I had just started off, in journalism. Actually, I had just joined from radio to that was my first TV job, and I did actually learn a lot from the Roys and from NDTV. I mean, right from how to do a voiceover, to do a P2C, and all those kind of stuff. But the thing is that I used to see around me the stars, and how the stars were treated, and how the rest of the reporters like us were treated, or the backroom people were treated. I still remember, I cannot forget it. I still remember there was an event I was sent for, and there was an event which another star anchor was sent for along with me. And that star anchor had 3 producers, 5 cameramen, then a makeup artist, and all of them staying in a 5-star hotel in Lucknow, because this event was taking place somewhere close to Lucknow. And there was me and my cameraman. There was no place in that hotel, and obviously we were not considered up to that budget. So when you have such a lavish lifestyle, big cars being given, no foreign trips once in 2 years, I think it was coming. I mean, the fact is that your money or your model, your revenue model was going to collapse was kind of inevitable, because they wanted to send stars for every big event, and the stars would always be very, very demanding. So when I left NDTV and I joined Aaj Tak, and I still remember it was when Sonia Gandhi, remember, had resigned on the Office of Profit issue, and she was contesting again. And I remember I'd gone to Rai Bareli, me and my poor cameraman Dhakke Khake standing in the sun at a rally. And I saw this star anchor from NDTV again, 3 producers, cameramen throwing a tantrum, AC cars, and they were driving down from Lucknow, all of them staying in a 5-star hotel. And how long can you afford that? Because at some point of time, it's going to start crumbling. And who pays the price? It's the smaller employees who don't get very high salary who actually pay the price. And that's exactly what has happened. And I'm sorry, I only hope those are the people who don't end up paying the price and lose their jobs. These stars like Ravish and all have made their money. They also have a huge traction on YouTube. So they're going to keep on making their money. They don't have to worry about that. The others are a little worried about कि हमारा क्या होगा, what is the situation we are going to be working under.
Pallavi revealed a lot. How much money people make on YouTube. Professor, just make a note of that. Okay, I thought YouTube
Listen,
was always...
Pallavi, what you're sharing here sounds like barefaced discrimination.
Was that was that star anchor Barkadat?
Don't name.
The one who cannot be named.
One who cannot be named.
The one who cannot be named. In NDTV, Advaita, is a very mixed story for many of us. I mean, many of the people who joined, I remember there were 6 of us who joined on the same day. And of the 6, there's only one who still remains top notch. I think Bhupen Chaubey also joined with us. So he's now, where he is. But, I have a very mixed feeling about NDTV. I mean, for me, it was a big thing. Oh my God, you get to see Dr. Roy. And he's very nice, So we were taught things like how to do a voiceover. I remember I was for at least 8 months not allowed to do a voiceover for my own story, because they said you cannot pronounce Delhi right. There's a particular way of pronouncing Delhi. कुछ D में stress है, आपका stress कुछ कम है, कुछ है. I went on and on for 8. They were that meticulous. Then how to write scripts and all of that. They were very particular about that. Also, credibility is something which I learned at that point of time. There was a hallmark on that, because every story of yours would have to go to a legal department and all. But I think that scar of being treated differently remained. And we know of Zara and all these big labels now. When I was there in NDTV, the only big labels I remember was one which I'm forgetting. It's something called Rendezvous or something, or Ravish or something like that. And I remember these people around. You remember? So they've disappeared now. So I remember these 4, 5. Yeah, so these 4, 5 stars would come, and they would discuss in the morning. They would all walk into office around 10:30, 11. हम लोग बैठे रहते थे. I picked up this top from there. I used to think, यार भाई ये क्या चीज होता है यार? It's so bloody expensive. And they used to discuss, and we've had breakfast in Oberoi and lunch in dinner. At that time, there were not so many 5-star hotels. And people like us used to eat in Sarojini Nagar, se kapda utha liya, or, going to any other shop. I mean,
Export
and I
surplus stuff.
remember, I mean, it hurts because I know we were made to feel different because we were not belonging to a very rich, entitled family. But I
Yeah.
also think
that is a classic
that
medieval French society.
Yeah, Sandeep,
Before the
I want to get to
revolution
Sandeep
came,
now.
and I don't know when exactly Pallavi joined, but I think the whole story kind of
I joined when they had just a year before it was converted. I was in Star News actually. So in NDTV was Star News, right? Hindi English.
okay.
I joined
Hmm.
ek saal pehle. So
So
a
that
year
makes
after I
sense.
joined.
That makes sense, Pallavi, because all this vetting through the legal department and all that used to happen. I think I'm just conjecturing. NDTV and even Star News was birthed during the Vajpayee regime. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that. There is an NDTV pre 2004 and there is an NDTV post 2004. I think we have to place it in this context to kind of get greater clarity. And I mean, it was the ultimate.
But
Sandeep, can you explain the 1 second? Can you explain the pre and the post? What was the difference?
Yeah, when the whole news media, electronic TV news media, it was opened up to private players. Until then, you had only Doordarshan, right? So that opening up happened during Vajpayee's time, India 1.
Yeah.
And Sushma Swaraj, if I remember correctly, she was INB minister then. And all these same NDTV guys who later became superstars, led all the swanky lifestyles that Pallavi described. They used to be hanging around, the PMO and important ministers in the Vajpayee cabinet. This is well known. I mean, you have a lot of footage that shows that. And they had,
Can I come in out here?
they had that kind of access even during the Vajpayee era. So these are not innocent things that that can be taken in isolation. But then once the regime change happened, then they kind of completely went bonkers. And I'm using a very polite term. The who's who of it was an ultimate party zone for Lutyens. What do you mean fixing? 2004 onwards.
So NDTV makes a big thing about Godi media and all. So my question is, what is a Godi media? A Godi media is supposed to be one media which does not question the government or is in sync with the government's point of view. I still remember it was
sitting on the lap.
My last example I'll give. It was just a week or so I had joined NDTV, and when I joined NDTV, I remember what had happened is. Look what Prasad on the road. I'm sitting today on my chair, yeah. You people have maligned me. But anyway, so I remember it was just a week after I joined NDTV, and they sent me off to cover some protest. Kuch left ka protest tha. And remember, the left was in Par in Bengal. So there was a left ka protest in Jantar Mantar. They told me you go and cover and come back and write a color piece. So I went there and it was absolutely khali. There were hardly any people there. Mushkil se 7 to 10 people. So I came back and I told my boss ki dekho aisa hai. So the boss also didn't pay attention to me. He said, "Tum script likho." I wrote the script. It went on air, and I saw Radhika Roy walking after 1.5 hours saying, "Who's the person who did this story?" So they all said she has done it. She's new. She said never ever send her to do this kind of reportage again. So she asked me, "How wasn't it crowded?" I said, "No, ma'am. There was just 7 to 10 people. How can you say that?" "I'm sure it was crowded. I'm sure you didn't see it." So they made me write the story again to make up the fact that there was a lot of crowd. So you understand, isn't that Godi? That is Godi because the left was in power in Bengal and we know what her connection with the left was. I'll never ever forget those kind of incidents because they come back to haunt me at times because they also call me Godi now. Thanks to my association with Sandeep and Dipankar.
There's a I mean, I'll just butt in. The word Godi in Kannada means wheat, atta.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's not such a
anybody who knows how to make rotis and chapatis, right? you put oil into it, mix oil into it, and then some water, and make the dough. It sticks.
But
That's where the Ghose media word has come from.
Professionalism is
Advaita, one thing.
Professor wants to come in.
You know-
Professor, go ahead.
Look, we know what NDTV had become, but at the end of the day, I regret its passing. I'll tell you why. Because you see, most of us grew up watching The World This Week, at least, and it was a stellar show. In an otherwise staid media, it was a stellar show, and for a long time, he gave the impression of objectivity. For a long time, he gave the impression of objectivity. Now, what happened inside, discrimination, star reporters, etc., I'm sure that's in every organization. If it persists for a very long period of time, that organization will perish. If performance is not paid, that organization will perish. Now, the problem is, A, it failed to evolve. Number two, it had, after 2004 particularly, it basically gave away all pretense of objectivity. I remember, when NDTV was covering the Amarnath agitation in Jammu, initially all the coverage of the agitation was very, very negative, because it had now dissident journalist Barkha Dutt, who was basically orchestrating that particular show. And then some people in the NDTV said, look, we are covering it wrong. We are missing something out there. And then they sent people, and the person they sent happens to be Radhika Bodia, Srinivasa Jain's wife. So she came in, she had a look, and she realized that, this was not what was being painted out to be. And for the first time, NDTV carried an objective, I would say, pro-agitation story. And, she interviewed me, she interviewed others also. And it made quite an impact. And what happened was, apparently, there was, after 2 episodes, it was so popular, before they could screen it the 3rd time, there was a clampdown. Now, this was basically the kind of politics that was being played into NDTV. And I'm talking about 2008-9, when UPA 2 came back. The hubris is basically starting to peak. And the hubris did not go away. It was like a dinosaur which made absolutely no effort to reform himself. Now, I am sure Dr. Prannoy Roy is very nice and all that sort of a thing. But, unless you reform, unless you have a modicum of objectivity, and there was never any modicum of objectivity, what happened was, okay, sophisticated channel, values and all that sort of a thing. Everybody speaks very good English. Everything is fine. But it remained tagged, and it did nothing absolutely to basically overcome that particular tag. See, let's face this. When you look at it also, it was part of the old boys network. I mean, Radhika Roy related to Karat's wife, etc. These are all related to one another. They know one another. They meet one another, and therefore exchange of favors becomes extremely important. Number one. Number two, many people in the NDTV thought they were part of the government. You see, I can imagine journalists being close to the government. They need information. But when it becomes so incestuous, then it becomes, and once things start to turn, they turn very, very rapidly. And that is what it has happened to NDTV. Look, the other thing about what Sandeep Ghosh said, it's absolutely true. There has been a bailout. But let's face this, even today, the NDTV has brand value. So it's not as if it's a total loss for the Adanis. The Adanis have taken over some sort of a masthead which has value, and there's a big if they're able to make it a more objective channel, it could pay off. It could pay off. But the fact is that old culture of the stars, that will have to go.
But
correct. Can I get to Sandeep Balakrishnan? I have to moderate this one a little bit. But Sandeep, you wrote a piece about likening the buyout of NDTV to draining of the swamp, and it was as usual. Your pieces are very hard hitting, and I was curious to know from you, when the professor says that this could mean that you have an NDTV that is more objective, that is more balanced, and there is still some brand value left. Do you think that's true? Do you think they can kind of re-establish themselves? Because for the last couple of years, basically they've just been there. No one's really watching them or anything.
Okay, multiple threads out here, Advaita. What Professor was essentially talking about brand value relates to the business side, meaning they have these huge pile of assets, both tangible and intangible assets, intellectual property, this kind of thing. That is the business side of it. But on the credibility side of it, let's face it, Advaita, since the dawn of journalism or media, there's no such thing as objective journalism, really. Either the news is paid for, like today, I mean, which is unfortunate, or you had all the good journalism which has come out, and at the risk of generalization, all the good journalism that has come out, Ida Tarbell, for example, or is it Ida Tarbell? She did the fabulous expose 19-part series on Standard Oil, which eventually led to a lawsuit, and the whole company got split. That used to be a monopoly. So you have very rare exceptions like this. But here you have a case in NDTV where, RPM Singh, a sitting minister's wife, is a staffer in NDTV. What objectivity can you expect? And, Radhika, founder's wife, a co-founder at any rate. She's a sister of Brinda Karat, head of this guy, wife of whatever, that Sitaram Yechuri. So what objectivity can you expect? And the real life example Pallavi just gave about covering that, leftist protest or whatever that is. So now if you have to revive NDTV, coming to your point, as a journalistic endeavor, in the real sense of the word, they have to regain their, start their credibility building exercise from the scratch. What do you mean? You have these star anchors and group editors fixing ministerial berths. By what definition of journalism does that fit? Yeah. So this is the extent of thing. Plus no TRP. Then you have this guy Ravish Kumar, who's the media equivalent of Arvind Kejriwal. So these are the people who
explain that statement a little more.
Yeah. You're insulting Arvind Kejriwal.
You can follow
Sandeep. Sanjay ji, he gives a tough competition. He gives tough competition to Arvind Kejriwal in the sense of shameless lying and the level of self-righteousness that he has. In that they are equals. On odd and even days included.
Brand or marketing perspective, if in case your viewers are interested, what Professor started by saying the world this week, that was a Pranay Rai brand. It was his personal brand, basis which and you see, if you see that whole transition to Star with Ratikanta Basu and getting Ratikanta Basu essentially helping them, and Bhaskar Ghosh was then the INB secretary. So it's again all that part of that little what Professor is talking about, the inner coterie. And we know that even Pranay Rai, much before NDTV in his DD days and all, he was close to the Gandhis. Somebody has given me a story about, at those days, apparently he used to, in fact, call the shots. And some very senior journalist, name, who's an old hand, he told me that he was then very much part of the Rajiv Gandhi thing. Rajiv Gandhi calls him, says, can you come and see me? He says, no, right now I'm shampooing my beard. And if you give me some time, I'll come. But will you give me a spot of lunch? And then he says, this is he says, yeah. So that was his standing. It's all the Doon school and all that.
Old boys club, basically.
No, but the point, I'll just give me 1 second. I think when you're talking about brands, it's a different thing. I'll just skip to what I was trying to say. NDTV brand is just like if you say Wire is a brand. Today, Wire, is a brand among certain people. Now, if you were to buy a Wire and change its entire, content, you'll be losing its core audience. And if I have to do something there, I'd rather, apart from it, you can say Statesman was a brand. Somebody revives a Statesman. That's a different story because it had gone down to seed. Here you have to reinvent and how that reinvention, just by making it fair, you're not going to get it overnight, because some people who think it's not fair today hooked onto certain other channels. To get them back there, you have to do something like what CNN IBN has done over a period of time. They built it. Today there are
But
get people like Pallavi Ghosh who gets credibility to it. They are on the field. I'm not saying tongue in cheek, Pallavi, very seriously. Look at your Gujarat. Everybody is saying it's one of the fantastic, not just you, but I'm talking about your channel. So they have done,
Why is Professor laughing?
no, so it had to come there. So that'll be a long haul, but it's a good platform to get. But all the so-called stars, I don't see them. Other than Ravish Kumar, we said, you talk of some of the other stars without taking their names. Where will they? Who will pick them up just for their so-called star value or screen appeal? And what Sandip, my namesake, said, two things of sheer unprofessionalism. One is there is never any disclosure of conflict of interest. If somebody is reporting Kashmir politics, doesn't state that there is a question of a conflict of interest there. And more importantly, the article I wrote, due to which they were very livid at me when the initial raids happened. Like my company, if a raid happens for some reason, or anybody's company, they are not going to put their employees in front of the income tax people to say that you defend. So that's what precisely they did. Is there something happening between the owners and income tax department, and in which you are not party to? Editorial is not party to what's happening at the business end. If something is happening at the business end and then you put all of them in front to bat against income tax, that I consider unprofessional.
Yeah, Sandeep, can you tell us a little bit about you were actually blocked from writing on NDTV, right? After one particular column. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that Chaitanya Kunte episode, I used to be an avid blogger for about 20 years. So part of my thing was to, pursue this kind of alleged journalism that NDTV and back in that day, CNN, IBN, all those guys used to do. So when that Chaitanya Kunte episode happened, so I wrote a piece which titled, Barkadat, please send me also a legal notice. She sent it.
Oh God.
Sanjay,
you asked for it.
But on the I'll just take a couple of seconds, just to Sandeep ji kind of provoke my thought. About the niche audience that the Wire and NDTV commands. Wire does have a very loyal kind of a following audience. So what it does is basically Maoist propaganda, which is very clear. So it has a loyal readership base, and people pump in money, through subscriptions, donations, whatever. But NDTV was not meant for a specific audience. In fact, it was not meant for any audience, and I'm speaking purely based on their track record. So it didn't care if a business, ultimately it's a business, right? When was it ever profitable? One. Two, how did it even have the confidence to take public money? That is, get itself listed in the stock market. So business model, revenue model, zero. TRP, negligible. And then you keep raising money every round. Where does it come? You don't even have an audience. I think it was some kind of a property, one of the extension counter of the Congress party. That's as best as I can surmise it. Look, I clearly remember India, I think, won some cricket World Cup, okay? And I was watching the match, and on NDTV, as soon as Dhoni lifted the cup, NDTV mein right side, banner headline was, congratulations India, congratulations Rahul Gandhi.
No.
This was a night.
Do you have a screenshot? I can't believe that.
No, you can check out their archive footage if you want.
That shows that Sandeep was an avid NDTV watcher, which I was also.
Really?
Yeah, in a past life, yeah.
Okay, can I come in out here?
Because
Yeah,
we
ji,
would have been
Yeah,
watching a
yes,
Professor,
sports
I'm
channel
done.
at
I'm
that
done.
point of time.
I'm done. Yeah.
okay. Professor, one
You
second.
know,
Sanjay ji hasn't spoken in a
uh,
while. Professor,
Sandeep
please
Ghosh,
speak.
Sandeep Ghosh.
I have to tell you that I'll have to leave at 8 p.m. sharp because I have another recording
Yeah.
lined up.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'll be
Okay.
brief.
But the
Okay,
audience is asking for comments. So please,
Sandeep, see,
Professor,
Sandeep
wait.
Ghosh talked about, this
Professor.
old boys network.
Hmm. Yeah.
क्या हुआ?
Old boys network.
Sandeep
Yes.
Ghosh talked about, you talked about
Hmm.
an old boys network, where,
Yeah.
he could tell Rajiv
Doom
Gandhi,
School,
I'm going to
JNU, all
shampoo my
these
face.
places.
And
Hmm.
Rotikanto Basu and Bhaskar Ghosh and all that sort of a thing. You see,
Hmm.
go back 10, 15 years before that. When you had a license permit regime, when our industries were concerned, industrialists also dependent on bureaucrats and politicians basically to give them that license. So when the media was also, particularly electronic media was also heavily regulated, entry was not as forthcoming, you had to depend on these particular bureaucrats. And the fact that he was so close to the Gandhis and so close to everybody who mattered certainly helped. Let's not dispute that. But what I'm talking about is basically, again, I'll come back to that brand. We watched NDTV in its earlier avatar, World This Week, and later on Star News, and that gave him the credibility to launch this particular channel. And I dare say, for a long time, because it was possibly the only private channel, we watched it. We watched it for a variety of reasons, not just the news, not just the debates, but they would have these documentaries also in the middle. There's certain stories which they give a lot of thing which you don't see in new channels. Sometimes you see it on ACN and IBN. I think there is a hunger for that. There's a hunger for that, and I did not talk about objectivity. As I completely agree with Sandeep Balakrishnan, objectivity is a mirage, but certainly balance. You see, previously on NDTV, at least in the blogs, there would be a Sapan Dasgupta story as well. So on Telegraph, there used to be a Sapan Dasgupta column as well. In NDTV, that had gone away a long time ago. Now, I think if there is balance, if people who are known for certain views, certain forthrightness of that particular views and certain things, if they come in, then a certain balance, in a sense, is restored in NDTV. Hopefully, we'll get to see debates which NDTV was known for. Not the Barkhadat moderated debates, earlier debates moderated by Prannoy Roy. They were even-handed in the sense that one would not be cut off in favor of the other. So I am talking about a pre-2004 NDTV where there was balance. I think if that can be done, a lot of people who want to watch news at a particular pace, who want a mix of shows, but who want balance, they and who basically quit NDTV in watching NDTV in disgust, as I did. I think a lot of
right.
people would veer towards NDTV. Number two, their TRPs may be low. Once again,
Professor,
one.
you're taking a
TRPs may
full
be low.
class. Hmm.
Yeah, no. TRPs may be low, but I think the kind of people who watch NDTV as capacity to pay and capacity to buy goods are somewhat higher than other channels. It may not compensate for low TRPs, but I think it is worth a crack at reviving NDTV.
Okay. Sanjay ji, do you think NDTV can be revived? Is it possible?
See, NDTV, as Dipankaj was saying, I think there used to be certain good things, and NDTV used to be our staple, I think, in the 90s, certainly in the 1990s. And it was a time when NDTV was actually not by itself, and it was actually Star News. And I think Star News was the number one channel at that point of time, before it became NDTV. And NDTV, I think I remember the inflection point, and that inflection point is, I still remember Prannoy Roy, how he was talking about the surprise results in the 2004 elections. Because before the 2004 elections, and at that point of time, NDTV used to be the most credible platform as far as the election results went. I think they had the best and the most rigorous opinion polls at that point of time.
Yes.
And I do remember how Dr. Pranoy Roy started analyzing the results as soon as he realized that the NDA government was not going to make it. And I clearly remember I did not like the glee on his face, because I had associated till that point Dr. Pranay with some kind of objectivity. And I think, who said, Sandeep or Dipankarji, that after 2004 they showed their true colors.
Yeah.
And they were part of the establishment, actually. Until that point, people did not know that they were part of the establishment. And since the establishment was out of power, so they were not showing their true colors. As soon as it came into power, they started showing their true colors, started appointing ministers, started setting policies, started doing all the things that people in the establishment do. And that, I think, culminated. I remember even today those things are being played and replayed, replugged. The discussion that happened after UPA won a second time in 2009, the kind of praises that were showered on Rahul Gandhi were really quite unreal or surreal. We cannot associate
Cute
Rahul
dimples.
Gandhi with any of those qualities that he was being credited with. I mean, it was full-blown praise. He was being extolled and exalted to the heavens in that show. I think Shekhar Gupta was there, and who else was there? And Dr. Pranoy Roy, of course. And Dr. Pranoy Roy, in his understated way, he used to sound very convincing. I think.
So there's this infamous panel discussion that keeps, floating around social media and WhatsApp. Pranay Roy, Shekhar Gupta, then a couple of other people talking about, the splendid qualities of Rahul
Gandhi. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Sonia Gandhi. That is the one. That is the one.
I'll also, because I'll have to leave early, so I'll also talk about this whole YouTube business. That much is made out of Ravish Kumar suddenly getting to 2 million or something. Ravish Kumar started his channel way back in June itself. And he was planning, obviously he was planning to quit, because I think the kind of free run that he had been given, and the kind of double-faced life that he could enjoy over there, the way he could treat a Hathras and a Shraddha differently without anybody batting an eyelid in his NDTV management. I think, then the setup. I think that kind of freedom he does not expect. And as far as the YouTube space is concerned, let us remember that a Lallan Top is having a subscriber base of 23 million right now.
Yeah.
And when they were at 2 million...
You can buy followers, subscribers on YouTube. You know that, right?
Really?
Well,
yeah. Please tell me.
Yeah, you can.
Please show me. Please send me the link.
I'm suddenly alive to this discussion.
See, there are two aspects. There are three aspects. The one is the old-fashioned way. No. There are three aspects to grow. 3 ways to grow your YouTube channel. One is the old-fashioned way, organic. Second, you have these agencies that help you buy subscribers, and the third way is that you can hire people from Google who will tweak the algorithms to do this for you.
Oh,
okay. Please send us these details. I did not know this.
Yeah.
Maybe I can grow my channel faster.
What? You're already at 6 million, Sanjay ji.
Sorry?
You're already at 6 lakhs. How much more do you need?
8 lakhs.
8. Oh, wow.
He is looking at Lallan Top. Dixit Saab is looking at Lallan Top. He wants more.
Let me correct.
Lallan Top. Lallan Top was taken over by the India Today group.
India
when
Today
they
Group.
were at about 2 million. But since
Yeah.
then, their
Mm.
growth has been fantastic.
Yeah.
And they are now part of the India Today Group officially.
Yeah.
So the 2 million, our Ajit Anjum is also at 2.9 million. So
Mhm.
if Ravish
Okay.
Kumar also wants to be another Ajit Anjum, no problem. See,
No, we all need
I
some
remember
entertainment.
those
Yeah.
discussions.
We all need
Yes,
entertainment. No?
number of subscriber
Mm.
doesn't actually mean or does not signify any kind of respectability.
Yes,
So
it
you
doesn't.
may,
Precisely. Yeah.
because
Also,
I can tell you
Yes.
some titillating sites which
profitability.
have hundreds of
Yeah.
millions of
See,
subscribers.
official
All the
profitability.
makeup tips, cooking channels, and some travel kind of channels, they have huge subscriber
That's
bases.
it.
Yes.
This is like a career advice session for me. I think I'm canceling
You
this.
should do that. Advaita, you can
Let me
you can
correct
start
us.
an alternative channel, yeah, for
Uh,
doing
let-
some tourism and thing.
I've seen
Tourism
these
and
true
hospitality.
How to
I've
beat
seen these
Ravish
true
Kumar
crime-
is something that Sandeep Balakrishnan is advising right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
You know,
No
I've
comments.
let me correct a couple of things, if I may, Advaita. I'll also leave about Professor. He's talking about purchasing power. First of all, purchasing power in India has shifted. Okay, I'm telling you, this is an advertiser who down 1 month line, I'll again buy channel means airtime. So first of all, purchasing power doesn't exist there any longer. Retired bureaucrats don't buy too much of those are the kind of people who watch NDTV. They don't buy too much of consumer goods. When NDTV was there, where is the NDTV's model? I'll tell you. My ex-boss, I don't have to take his name, everybody will make out. When he bought a particular Hindi channel, somebody asked, why didn't you buy that? He said, if I bought NDTV, I would rather buy People's Democracy. NDTV's viewership is less than an Odia newspaper's readership. He said that, and he said, therefore, I want to go into a vernacular channel, Hindi channel, and that's how they subscribe to one channel, which is. And so if today our Times Now or Republic have changed, is because they have moved away from the traditional BBC or that model of thing to expand their base to take on people who speak English, who are in the tier 2, tier 3 town, who would earlier look at only vernacular channels. Today they see these channels because that is how the both programming and everything has been expanded. So NDTV will have to go through doing that. So nobody is going to pay money to NDTV. When I used to buy media, I would pay NDTV money only if I thought my particular thing needs to be seen by certain bureaucratic circles in Delhi or those sort of people. That's when I'll go to those programs, if there is something which I was doing. For catching the mass, if you're doing it objectively, you will go Hindi Heartland, you'll go for any of, today you might go for Lalan Top. You'll go for any of these channels, you will not go to even in NDTV India. Okay, so that requires a total reinvention. No, masthead is fine. I'm not talking about the masthead. There is a heritage in the masthead. I keep saying statesmen missed the bus in this online revolution. They could have, with the old masthead, revived the content and made it a very, very respectable online. Something like that could be done. But commercially, as it stands today, we can hold a whole show. I can explain to you or offline. It's a totally different business model on which they ran. Okay. I don't want to take names. If you see even some of the experts who come on that channel who came earlier, by experts, I mean even medical doctor experts. Okay. They're part of the same, coterie.
Club.
Tanandi. Yeah.
Pallavi, you've been very quiet this entire show.
Yeah.
Some people who are totally getting your name wrong, they're calling you Pallavi.
I think she's
Pallavi.
feeling
But
nostalgic. I think she's feeling
I want to
nostalgic.
know who's Golu? Who's Golu? This I want to
AIM.
ask you.
Who is
AIM.
AIM, who
He's called
else?
Golu? Oh wow, lovely.
He's called a lot of
Every time he
things.
calls me Tokas,
Most
I'll
of them
call him Golu.
unmentionable. Golu is one of the ones that I can put on the screen.
No, I think the whole, the whole postscript, if you will, to this NDTV, whatever, buying out this whole saga, is how easily they have gotten away with it.
Meaning?
Meaning, all the what you call money laundering, the fixing ministerial berths. These are not journalism, by any standards, right? Right? The
I
kind of
agree with
things
you.
that they've done, and for which
I
they're being
agree with
investigated, and for
I
which
agree
they're
with
being
Sandeep
investigated.
Balakrishnan.
I think
But
they've gotten away, really off the hook.
but I see. But that is the establishment gets away with everything. I mean, the National Herald case is also a very sordid case.
I
But
agree.
we know at the end of the day, they will get away
Yeah,
with it.
I agree.
A face, even those against them will basically find a face for the royal family in a sense to exit.
True.
So you're absolutely correct that the royals have been given an easy way out, no doubt about it. Look, when it comes to outreach, as Sandeep Ghosh says, there is absolutely no doubt that the reach of NDTV is limited. But let us not start believing in our own fiction as NDTV did once. It's a channel only retired bureaucrats watch. No, it's somewhat wider than that. I
Is
think
that true,
all
Sanjay
creative,
Dixit?
all
Sanjay Dixit.
Fact
sorry,
check.
Ghosh.
On the live fact check
all
on that.
See, all TV channels
Sanjay,
have an
is that
audience.
true?
There are some who have
Well,
a massive
I
audience and who
rarely
have
watched it.
basically become English, but there are some who have a particular niche. Now, if I want to sell mass goods, will I go on NDTV? The answer is not. But there would be niche luxury items, I would imagine, if I go to NDTV, provided NDTV, in a sense, revives itself and includes that audience who want to watch, news and news programs at a steady pace, but who want objectivity. There will be people who are favorable to right nationalist parties. There'll be those favorable on the other side. But there is, a cadence in watching. You want to watch news at a particular pace. You want to mix it up. If they are able to bring that particular audience, then that niche will be pretty well served by NDTV. Can
Vijay
you
Mali,
make it another Times Now? No. Can you make it
Professor,
another Republic? No. Can you make it another Raj Tak? No. But the fact is,
But I
I
think,
believe that NDTV will have a place.
but I think
Doctor,
what Adani is
that
saying,
is what
once
Vijay Mali thought.
let me moderate.
In
I
having a
think what Adani is actually trying to say is that it can be the next international media house, right? Pallavi,
Yeah.
what do you make of that? What are the odds of India having its own global news channel and NDTV being that global news channel? And
Well,
he
I
is the
mean,
second
NDTV is
biggest in the world. I mean, he
NDTV
has the
had a
money.
past, but remember, this is an experiment which other channels have also done. I mean, Vion, for example, was also an attempt to have a kind of a niche international channel. I think for now, NDTV, whatever it's going to be called, if it's going to be renamed or something, I think the focus is just going to try and get that balance. Pretty much what we all have been discussing, what NDTV has been accused of. But they do have still some very good workers. They still do have very good staff. So I mean, for their sake, I really hope they are channelized to come out with a channel which maintains the fact. Like you are saying that NDTV had a very small reach. But that's not the experience I always get. Very often when I travel and I stay in hotels during election coverage or something, there are lots of hotels which do have NDTV, and they do watch it. Because people do also want to have an alternative, because there's one point of view which feels that other channels are so Godi or pro-government. So they say, okay, we want to balance it out and watching NDTV so that we also know the other side. So there have been experiments which have been made in that. Mirror Now is also one example. Remember under Faith D'Souza, that was an experiment which was done. People's voice, people's issues. So as far as international thing is concerned, I think there's a space for that. On YouTube, for example, in our experience, we notice there's a huge craving for international cover, defense and international cover, especially the peak came during the Ukraine-Russia war. So people do want a very Indian version of this international cover. So that's where I think an NDTV can come in, or other channels can also come in.
And also, if you want to also cater to a foreign audience, okay, chalo, please go ahead.
Sanjay ji has to leave, so let's just get Sanjay ji's passing comments on this particular issue, and thank him for his debut on the Sunday Club.
No, it's not a debut. We have come here once.
What, you've come
not
once
on the
before?
Sunday Club.
No, not on the Sunday Club.
No, not under Advaita's watch.
Maybe AIM called you quietly while I was
Yeah.
I came on your channel. I don't know whether it was a Sunday, but I did come on your channel.
No, I think but she also has these one-on-one chapter. I remember I saw him one of them recently.
Yeah,
around
he
10
has
years
a
back.
bit of a Sunday.
With
Yeah.
Suhail Seth.
Yeah, it was something with the Jaipur dialogue.
That was just this.
I will also say bye. It's almost 8 o'clock.
Oh, thank
Man,
God.
what do you do at 8 o'clock, Sandeep?
What you do at 8, yeah.
I've got a dinner to go to, and Professor,
Okay, I just weigh in on that one particular remark
same
about.
mistake thinking NDTV will take in places by launching a joint brand with them. So you can also think of another joint brand like NDTV and Professor Sen.
Or NDTV
I
and
have
Jaipur
appeared on
dialogues.
NDTV before.
NDTV and Jaipur dialogues.
Yes.
Okay, all the best on that happy.
I offered to hire a Ravish Kumar. He did not respond.
Oh, you did?
Yes, of course, publicly.
Comedy nights with Ravish.
You danced also when he exited NDTV. That was the other thing you did.
See you.
No, but
Thank
you
you.
have to give it to that guy's confidence and his self-righteousness, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
Hey,
why
hey.
not? I mean, you see the way he would say.
Any of you guys have that kind of guts?
Like somebody was talking about the expressway. ये एक्सप्रेसवे तो बहुत अच्छी हैं, लेकिन क्या इस पर किसान की बैलगाड़ी भी चल सकेगी? क्या इस पर किसान के भैंसे भी घूम सकेंगे? When you say these kind of things with straight face, that shows the kind of confidence that these guys has got in his nonsense.
Precisely. He
And
does that with a straight face. Yeah.
Let me just somebody made that remark, that retired bureaucrats watch it. Well,
I would.
retired.
Sandeep Bose did.
Why do you say retired
Sandeep.
bureaucrats watch it? The bureaucrats, the serving bureaucrats are not very different from the retired bureaucrats.
Yeah.
So I think retired bureaucrats as a class, you should rethink them. You should have a rethink. Because all those people who like to, who somehow suddenly under peer pressure, they like to think of themselves as progressives. They think that NDTV is progressive because it is absurd.
Thank you.
No, there is
With
there is
that,
also the other thing.
I'll take your
Thank you,
leave.
please. Who needs to
Sure,
leave?
Sandeep.
Thank you, Sanjay ji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Oh, everyone's going? Anyone has
No.
any last comments to make? And then we're off. Professor God, you really monopolized the conversation today. My God, you're
Really? I had to basically raise my hand to speak. You had continued
That's not
on
true.
anything
That's
except
not true,
NDTV.
Professor.
Huh.
You spoke the
Hey,
maximum.
That's true.
let's not forget. I mean, I have to make this point, Advaita and others. Which media house celebrated, had that kind of clout to celebrate its anniversary in Rashtrapati Bhavan?
Yes.
Yeah.
How does this even happen, Pallavi? I mean,
What is it?
yeah,
Yeah, of course.
NDTV 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it happened in
yes, I
Rashtrapati
remember.
Bhavan. They turned it into a resort or something.
But why did they even allow them that they did their permission? That
I
also
don't know. I'm
baffles
looking
me.
for the answer from you.
Who was the
I'm looking
president?
for the
But-
answers from you, Pallavi.
That was the incestuous relationship that NDTV had with the government of the day.
Yeah.
You see, 2004 to 2014, I think the World Bank bonkers, completely mad. Completely mad, and that does not exclude the Bharatiya Janata Party. I mean, woke statements were also coming from Advani when he went to Pakistan and said, Jinnah was a great guy actually.
Yeah.
So let us face it, this wokeism permeated our entire polity. The change starts taking place from 2012 to 2013. Certain things happened nationally in Delhi, and certainly things happened within the Bharatiya Janata Party. And today we are where we are today. Let's talk. Sandeep Dixit talked about serving bureaucrats and retired bureaucrats. Look, even serving bureaucrats do not like the pressure that is being put on them to actually work long hours. For the first time, I have friends, bureaucrats, they are being asked, here, what have you done? And this is something that they don't, this accountability from the political class is something that they're completely unused to. Many of them who are not
I don't know what happens to the
No.
Professor B.
I don't know, he's
Is it
so
our-
passionate.
No, no.
Pallavi, how does
It's your
that- I mean, how
internet
does that work,
connection. Your
Pallavi?
internet connection.
Yeah.
You see, the fact is, these people were not used to working. For the first time, they have somebody who's asking them, "What have you done?" And they, basically, they are basically strafing at the bit, straining at the bit, and that is why there is a bit of nostalgia about the old days where things were absolutely relaxed and you didn't really have to do any work.
Yeah, you go to a golf
There's a
course
long,
at 2 o'clock.
yeah, yes, absolutely, and pizzas for lunch because
Yeah,
you
But I
weren't
tell you
working
one
at all.
thing.
Oh, that,
I tell you
yeah.
one thing. Post
So,
NDTV,
Pallavi, I have a
one thing
question
that has
before.
happened.
Pallavi, before I forget, sorry for cutting you. How does this thing happen? How does this Rashtrapati Bhavan thing happen? And why does it
As
happen
someone
only
just
with
pointed
NDTV?
out,
No.
as
Why
someone
does it
pointed
happen
out,
only
it
with
was Pranab
NDTV?
Mukherjee's presidency.
Uh-huh.
Someone pointed out it was Pranab Mukherjee's presidency. Do I need to answer? That's where it must have come in from. Obviously that nudge had come in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really shocked that happened. So the only thing I want to say really, Advaita, and all of you, is that one good thing that has happened post NDTV is that many people who came out of NDTV and started their own channels, and some of them have been a victim of this classist attitude of NDTV. And they have tried to ensure a system where it's possible for anyone to become a star and anyone to become, big in a channel. So no longer does it matter which 5-star hotel you're eating in, what brand of clothes you're wearing. That doesn't matter anymore. And that really, I think that's something really nice and different has happened, because I have actually seen around me, I go to Congress office, wherever I go, there are people who come in from really small towns and they're almost at the same level like me. I'm so senior. I've been around the profession, and they argue with me. During the NDTV times, perhaps this wasn't there. The kind of clothes you wore, the kind of cars you came in, you were always made to feel different, There are exceptions. I'm not saying everyone in NDTV suffered. I didn't suffer. Someone said, okay, I suffered. No, I didn't suffer, but there was that pain, that scar was there. I mean, I had some very good moments, of course, in NDTV. But this is something which I grew up with, so to say, professionally. So when I joined other channels, I realized कि किस गाड़ी में आ रहे हो, इस होटल में खाया कि नहीं, that doesn't matter. At the end, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. Actually, I joined a Hindi channel. Hindi channels have great levelers, okay, in very great extent.
Yeah.
But many of them who come in from different kind of backgrounds, road pe khana, dhaba. I'm not very fussy about where you're staying in, because that's what journalists are supposed not to be fussy about.
Yes.
I mean, you're not supposed to be staying कि मुझे 5-star hotel में ही रहना है. That's one good thing that has happened post NDTV. And many people who wrote me down, ran me down, me and many of my peers who joined NDTV along with me, today they'll say, few of those people, when they meet me outside, they say, oh, great job. And they walk up to me and they say, hello, nice to meet you. Then, like those kind of stuff, and I feel like thinking, okay, look how you treated me when I was in NDTV. You never thought I could become a good journalist. So that's right.
No, the other thing I have to mention that, I mean, Pallavi is part of this thought. You know what, the other damage on a professional side that NDTV has single-handedly done, and I've written it in my piece yesterday or day before, that it has given journalism a bad name.
I agree
Arguably,
Yeah,
but there is a lot of truth to that. If you are a journalist at NDTV, specifically at NDTV, and this is what this comes from what Pallavi said about the classist divide within the organization, that even if you're an honest person at whatever level you're doing, accountant, journalism, whatever you're doing, you're tarred with this brush. For this, perhaps no other mainstream media is responsible as much as NDTV is responsible.
But also, Sandip, to be very fair, there are some other channels also. Some of them also, and some of the reporters too, have given a bad name to journalism. I mean, the kind of sensational coverage of, say,
that is true.
Shraddha.
No. I think there's a Pallavi, there's a distinction.
That is true.
There's a distinction.
Professor, 1 second. So that is true. I basically agree with you, Pallavi. But only NDTV has done it, in such a high-profile manner, in such a brazen fashion. What do you mean, Hafiz Saeed calling Barkadat as our friend in India. This sends out a message.
But he did that.
And
Oh yeah, he did.
But the bigger thing that basically shocked the conscience basically was the Radia tapes.
Yeah.
The distance journalists should maintain from the government, in a sense, was given a go-by completely. And after that, look at the hubris. You stay on. And what was there in NDTV that Prannoy Roy and Radhika Roy had to keep her? They didn't have to.
But she
Her
eventually
exit,
left
of course,
with a lot of bitterness.
Eventually, she should have left then and there, or at least made to have been leave then and there. But as
Professor,
I
she
said,
was
But
protected.
Professor, I remember they did a
She was
1.5
protected.
or 2 hour show. There was a 2-hour show where they got in 3-4 guests
Yeah.
who were actually defending her. I
Manu
still remember.
Joseph
It was
came
very-
out.
Manu
just
Joseph
as
was there,
people
Swapan
defended
Dasgupta was there, Enram was there. The 2-hour show.
Manu was the editor of Open.
Yeah.
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 Manu was there, I think Swapan was there, and Enram was there, and somebody else was there.
Old Boys Network, what do you do? You see,
Pallavi's yawning, so I
But
think
that-
we're
that-
done with this.
that show,
That's
the show was, a show was done for Wire also, to show that Wire had done nothing wrong. In fact, it was a wonderful thing that Wire had actually owned up. So let's not talk about these particular shows.
No, on
Yeah.
Barka's resignation from NDTV, she in fact wrote a long post on Facebook. I don't know if it is still there, where
Okay.
she gave reasons why she quit.
okay. Well, more competition on YouTube is all I have to say. Other
Why
than
don't
that,
you get
it's
him?
always-
Why don't you get him to join us on Sunday Club? Ask Ravish to join us on Sunday Club.
Yeah, he
You
should
You know,
have.
Professor, I
should.
don't know what you've had and come on the show today, but
I know. So seriously,
Definitely
what
like,
is it that you
he's
had?
like
Professor? Please
wired.
tell us.
He's wired. No pun intended.
He's wired.
He really is today. But I thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. It's
Sure.
going to get hectic in the next couple of months on YouTube, so we've got to keep ahead of the race.
Good.
And we'll be back soon next Sunday with the new Sunday Club. And thank you to my guests. Thank you, Sandeep, for joining
Thank you.
us for the
Thanks, Advaita. It was
And
fun.
get Golu.
I hope you
Yeah,
come
it's
back.
good.
And yes, and those asking about Abhijit, he had a small procedure, but he's doing much better. So don't worry about him. That's why he's taking some time out. And that's about it. And we'll be back soon. Sohail is on a flight
In New
from.
York.
No, he's on a flight from Zurich to New Delhi. He's left New York and landed in Zurich,
That
and then he
man
sent.
tells us where he's going every 2 minutes, and he's constantly complaining. I'm tired of New
and-
York. I'm tired of London. Yeah. I
And he
think he
sent me
worked in
pictures of
NDTV
what
at
he's
some point
eating
of time.
in Zurich, and said, "So sorry, but I'll be on a plane to India, so I can't be at the Sunday Club." And let's see when he does join us again. Which will be
I
next.
thought you want Arnab on the show. Did you?
I wanted him on the show, but it's Arnab. The thing I've learned with Arnab is if you ask him face to face for something, he'll never say no. But then when you have to so he'll say yes to everything. He's very gentlemanly in person, I mean, people don't realize this about him, but he's actually very soft-spoken, gentlemanly in person. And so
He also
yes,
faced the class thing in NDTV. Huh? He never.
times. He's
He
spoken
faced
about
it.
it. I think it has something to do with the tiffin and all. He used to carry a tiffin and everyone used to head
No,
off
he's
to Khan
so
Market
sweet.
for
I'll have to
lunch.
give you this incident. He lived in Chitranjan Park. Our office was very close to Chitranjan Park. So his wife would send around 5 o'clock every evening this chicken kathi roll from Chitranjan Park, because Bengalis love that chicken kathi roll. And quietly, he used to eat looking left and right. He couldn't mangne le. And no one would offer him food, and he wouldn't offer. But yeah, I mean Onda would fight for all of us. I remember. So he was also. So I remember when I first got an interview of Sonia Gandhi when the women reservation bill was passed. He actually called me up, despite the fact that I was in CNN News 18. He called me up to tell me that I'm so glad a reporter has got an interview and not an anchor. And in his channel also, a reporter got a treatment. I said, okay, I know where
Was-
the dig is.
Pallavi.
I'm a script writer, so I have to say this. Listening to Pallavi today, this reminds me of Downton Abbey and Upstairs, Downstairs. There's like two classes of people in this
Same
place.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Pallavi was,
I have so many stories on this. So someday when we meet, I'll talk about it.
no,
Yeah.
Pallavi
Right about that.
was Rajdeep there when you were there?
Yeah. Rajdeep,
Oh.
Barkha, Vasu, Arnab.
Mhm.
And we used to love Friday nights because the Friday was joint anchoring of Rajdeep and Arnab. And they would fight on air. It was like hilarious. I was there when Rajdeep was there. I've worked with the best in the industry, you know.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Are you going to NDTV? Someone is asking.
Yeah,
Are
someone
you
was
going?
asking.
Arey.
3 people asked you.
You should
This
Yeah.
actually, yes.
NDTV, the ex NDTV or the new NDTV?
The new
The new
NDTV.
NDTV,
New one.
Obviously.
the one with
Yeah.
the global reach.
Adani NDTV.
Someone gives me a job, tab na.
Acha, okay.
Huh?
She's not
Mil jayega.
saying no.
You can hit
She's
the
not
channel.
saying
You can hit the channel, Pallavi. You can hit the channel.
No. Professor, not
Yeah.
everything
Just
is
don't,
so funny.
Pallavi, just don't come on YouTube. That's it.
You're being nasty,
Okay.
Advaita.
No, I'm
You're
guarding
being
my
nasty and
turf.
mean.
I'm guarding my
She's
turf.
preempting competition. She's
Yes,
preempting
exactly.
competition.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you for
Okay,
watching.
Right.
And we'll
Thank
see
you so
you
much.
next week over time, but good fun. Bye, everyone.
And Sandeep ji,
Jai
I'm
Hind.
following
Bye.
you on Twitter, so I'm going to track you
Yeah.
now. Okay.